We were not always wanderers. Once, we had halls carved deep into the hearts of mountains. We had forges that never went dark, day or night. We had gates that seemed to us as if they would stand forever. And then, darkness came. In a single night, the stone that had sheltered our people for centuries became our grave. Hope abandoned our kind. From that day on, we walked across frozen passes, through hunger, through exhaustion, and through years of oppression at the hands of other kingdoms. We listened to the mountains, one after another, and each one answered us with nothing but silence. We had almost forgotten what hope sounded like, until one day we saw her. She stood among lakes and towering peaks, as if she had been waiting for us all this time. And even then, we could hardly believe our eyes, because a mountain must do more than simply stand. A mountain must call to you. Our eldest stone listener stepped toward the rock, placed his hand upon it, and pressed his ear against the stone. And then the mountain spoke. His eyes filled with tears, and tears of joy ran down his face. I still remember his eyes when he turned back to us. For the first time in many years, this was it. Our mountain. Our new home. After everything we had lost, we had finally found the mountain that had been waiting for us. The mountain had accepted us, but to accept us was not the same as opening itself to us. Before we could call it home, we had to earn the right to enter. While some raised the camp and drove stakes into the earth, others learned to read the stone. We searched for the place where the heart of the mountain would allow itself to be touched. Not every wall of stone wants to become a gate, and not every blow is worthy of being struck. But once the place was chosen, we did not hesitate. The first strike of the pick rang out like an oath. We worked by day, we worked by night. We hauled out stone, set the supports, repaired the tools, and returned to the rock again and again. The mountain did not open at once. It tested us with weight, with dust, with fractures in the stone, and with the fear of taking the first step wrong. But this time, we were no longer exiles, running away. We were a people who build. And when the stone answered us, with a deeper echo, we understood. There was no longer solid rock ahead of us. There was space, a hollow, a path inward. That night, for the first time, the mountain let us in. After opening a path into the heart of the mountain, we understood at once there was still a great deal of work ahead. The mountain had let us in, but it had not given itself to us freely. Its depths still had to be explored, reinforced, and slowly transformed into our new home. Soon, we saw a ledge, a stone cliff hanging in the dark, wide enough to hold our people, dangerous enough to kill the careless. That was where we chose to build our first camp inside the mountain. We hauled down beams, ropes, food, and tools. We raised barriers above the drop. We laid the first bridges. We learned to live above the abyss, as if it were ordinary ground. But even there, the mountain reminded us that we were not the first to dwell in its darkness. Wings beat somewhere overhead. Something moved inside the cracks. Even the silence there felt alive. But by then, we already knew. Every new fear could be overcome through labor, where at first there had been only bare stone. There were now fires, barriers, stores, bridges, and then the first forge was lit. Its flame became a sign that from that moment on, there was not only wildness in that darkness, there was us. By the end of that night, the cliff was no longer part of the abyss. It had become ours. This little stronghold was only the beginning. The mountain was far too vast to call it ours without knowing what still lay hidden in its depths. So we pressed on. The scouts went first, those who would meet the dark before the rest of us. They tested the passages, listened to the echoes, studied every ledge and every crack in the stone. Behind them came those who knew how to read the mountain. Geologists, cartographers, stone listeners. They measured the tunnels, marked the walls, drew the first maps, and they learned to tell a safe road from the places where the rock itself had not yet decided whether it would bear our weight. Only then did the miners go in. They raised mining posts. They cut out ore, crystals, and stone. They left stores behind and drove the road deeper and deeper into the mountain. Step by step, the mountain ceased to be mere darkness. It became a web of paths, of marks, of stations, and of new hope. But the farther we went, the more we began to feel that in certain places, the darkness was looking back at us. Ha! At the end of one military expedition, we found traces that should not have been there. And for the first time, we understood that in the deepest reaches of this mountain, we might not be alone. Dwarves are a strong people, a warlike people. But it is not war alone that makes us so. From our earliest days, we are taught one simple truth. Everything truly precious in life must be fought for. For home, for kin, for bread and fire, for the stone that gives us shelter. That is why our children learn early to carry both pick and blade. They are raised with the knowledge that strength is not for cruelty, but for defending what you love. And perhaps that is why, through every age in which dwarves fought for the mountains, our oldest enemy was never far behind. Goblins. And this time, that evil did not pass us by. As we began to master the mountain, most of us believed it would belong to us alone. But the wisest among us understood the truth. The mountain was far too vast for us to be its only dwellers. And before long, it became clear they were right. Goblins did not seek an honest fight. They waited in cracks. They hid in narrow fissures. They laid traps. They cut the ropes. They sent stones crashing down from above. Alone, they rarely dared to strike. But in packs, they became a true plague. And for all their cruelty, for all their filth and savagery, there was almost always one among them who stood above the rest, a leader, cunning, malicious, and clever enough to drive their rage toward the place where it would do the greatest harm. We were fortunate in only one thing. We had broken into the mountain at the point farthest from them, and that was why we were able for so long to grow in silence, to build, to explore the depths, and to believe that, in time, the mountain might truly become ours. But beyond the great inner void, they had already been there for a very long time. Beyond the abyss, their fires were burning. There were their burrows, their passages, their watch routes, and whole cities grown in the darkness of the mountain. We understood. What waited for us ahead was not merely a clash in the dark, not merely a struggle for a passage. It was a new war for the mountain,